Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Wendy Rowley. This is the Great Global Healing Party, the December solstice of 2024. I'm still trying to get from Zoom over to YouTube because it's just a better video and directions. I keep trying it. So I got out of it and I'm just streaming through YouTube Live. It's not quite as elegant, but it's efficient. I'm going to put a shout out there to anyone watching. If they want to do a barter where they get a soul mission reading or some help with the various tools that I have on the Wonder of Human Design website in exchange for showing me how to do this, because I keep finding the directions change. Just go to the Wonder of Human Design website and contact me through one of those contact forms, because at this point I need help. They keep changing things on the web with the technology. And although I'm pretty self-taught and pretty good, this just seems to not be going forward to do a live stream through Zoom. And I don't know why. The directions I find are different. I can't find anything current. Okay, enough of that. We're here. And we're very excited because January, March, June, we did great global healing parties that laid foundation work to connect various grids and the Christ grid and the human consciousness grid and the abilities for us to do this for the first time on the history of the planet, to be able to scrub clean as a group of people united as one heart and believing and intending that we can begin the clearing of our human consciousness grid. And why not? If you're an energy worker or you're a juicy body worker or any type of light worker, you know that through meditation you can clear your own self. Well, the anatomy of your own spiritual anatomy of your own being is very similar to the larger group complex and the human consciousness grid. There are many of the same parts of the anatomy there, micro, macro. And so it's very exciting. August, where we did some setups to what's called the Lion's Gate. And now and we did something in the fall, which was getting closer, but this December one is the actual first clearing of the human consciousness grid. And I had mentioned in the newsletter, if you are in the reminder about this, if you signed up, that there's something else happening that's quite exciting. We're sort of all forming what's called a quantum merge regarding this type of work. Now, let me back up a little bit. When we come together as a group to do this work, we're working at the level of our higher self. You have a higher self that's more individual for you, but your higher self also we're working at the level of our higher self. You have a higher self that's more individual for you, but your higher self also morphs through quantum spiritual anatomy and quantum multidimensionality of what is probably a little harder for us to perceive at this point in our evolution, but it's also group. And it's you have three group spirit bodies that we all share together. One's on the human consciousness grid. One's out in what they refer to as the greater field, where you feel the love of the creator. They say when you pass away, that's kind of where you go up to, the periphery of the planet there. And it just is the benevolence and the love. And that's where we come in as a soul group into the planet, if you want to believe that kind of a far out thing. And then there's one on an interim grid. There's the Christ or Master grid, where all the beautiful deeds and wonderful wisdom, and apparently our soul comes into that grid when it first arrives here. And then as you evolve, and you could have had a lifetime where you were evolved and were a master, and that kind of wisdom and experience goes over onto that grid. And the soul healing that we do comes through that grid. But in between the human consciousness grid and that grid is another one. Some people call it the interim Christ grid, or the camp that's bringing in this work that I work with call it the soul interim grid, the soul creational grid, or soul creational interim grid. And that has gotten connections to the human consciousness grid. And there's a group spirit body that we all share at the higher self level there. So when we work on the human consciousness grid, we're healing ancestral energy where we came together as groups tribes began to form nations and large family complexes because in the old history, apparently villages where everyone was kind of related and people had large family complexes. They would consider like, I work with Aliania, you'll meet her in a minute, but they say that families could be upwards of 200 people. Various tribes would mix together, and it's not to leave a complicated picture like we think with intermarriage and that kind of thing, but apparently families were considered large groups and then tribes and nations. So we're clearing at that level. Now, this type of work is pretty out in your periphery of your aura and your higher self, and it can feel like tingling. You could feel drifty during it, but all you have to do is give your intention and your positive joy that we can do this. Because when we scrub this grid and get rid of old consciousness, the same as healing in your spirit body. When you take out something old, an old construct or consciousness or belief system, you get to see the soul bring in this lovely, beautiful energy that has a new flavor, a new self-esteem, a new thought or consciousness, a new feeling. And so it's the same with this work, but it's a little farther out in your field, and it's not always as palpable like when you have body work or acupuncture or some of the other healing arts. But that thing I'm excited to see is that when you begin clearing the ancestral with people, they often have the experience where they say, I feel lighter. And the fact that we're getting to this level of the human consciousness grid and really getting into that grid and scrubbing it and doing the ancestral as part of it, I'm expecting us to have some of that lighter feeling with this healing. And I hope that comes for all of us. So I had started to speak about the quantum merge. It's kind of like any group that comes together and intends that they're going to start healing the human consciousness grid and putting that intent in there. It's like we're forming a hive healing creation. And all of that's going to go into this grid for the healing. And maybe I work with Aliania of Cosmic Service. She's a Palladian mother of sound. They laid these grids thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. And they said they come in the beginning and do that with many of us as souls. And they come in the middle, which is the great shift that we're in now that many people talk about. And then they come at the end. And in the great shift, they do this clearing of the grids with us. There's upgrades to the spiritual anatomy. Some of these upgrades are in the new divine feminine energy because that's getting a huge upgrade. Some of this might be repetitive for some of you, but some of you might not have heard this. So Aliania says that over 2024, 25, and 26, at the periphery of the planet and other setups, the divine feminine is getting huge upgrades. And she says for us, we will feel that and it'll be palpable and workable in our work in 2027, 28, and 29, if I did my math right. 24, 25, 26, 27. Yes, I did. 29. So, and she has said that in the beginning of the year, it's a little more challenging. You might start a project and then it'll sort of go back and then you'll start it again. And during the times where there's these sort of ratchetings where it doesn't go forward, go back and work on what you did. If you had a project that's not really going forward, she says it might be because it needs the new divine and feminine energy that comes in more palpably in 27, 28, 29. So it's exciting what's happening. And just for those of you who are interested in that divine feminine, there's some beautiful upgrades for women. And there's been upgrades for women's intuition, knowing, and Christ healing abilities. Now, Christ healing is an energy frequency that comes in through the soul that's a particular flavor, and it works particular energies. And it's often perceived as a white light with gold and sparkles. or white light with sparkles. She says with the new divine feminine, it'll be a lot more white light with golden sparkles. And so that is available on the Wonder of Human Design website as a course. And within that course, you also will learn about the galactic annual cycle in relation to your 24-hour circadian body rhythm cycle of energies moving through in the day and the night. And also, there's a very beautiful new healing paradigm called women's resonance healing. It's simple, it's elegant, it's no hands-on, it's by pure intention and a particular set of askings, and it happens 6 out of 10 times, and you could be doing it and nobody might even know. And it's kind of a one-on-one kind of a thing. I think it will get an upgrade to go to group, maybe. We'll see. You never know. It's gonna come forward. And so that's an example of some of the work that's coming in. And regarding the Great Global Healing Party, I mentioned in the reminder about this, there's also a woman's aspect of the Great Global Healing Parties. And those are beginning for the first time in 2025. And there's only 5 of those, and they're in sacred locations. They're not on the web. They're very, very intimate and private because it's so sacred and profound what happens in them. One of the things that's happening is Alienia says that the low self-esteem and the sort of historical downfall of women from being as equal in the paradigm with men and women began after the Egyptian Renaissance period. And it's gone up from the Renaissance of Egypt, you know, until now. So let's say you have Lemuria way over here, and then you have a couple other Renaissances and epochs of time, and then you have the Egyptian. And a lot of the healing we do now is sort of overlaying and flipped back and going through that Egyptian time frame. And then there's the Greek and the Indian and the time of the Master Yeshua, Christ epoch of time. And then there's the one we're in now. And so that low self-esteem of women will be cleared in these great global healing parties on the human consciousness grid. And the interesting thing about women is we have a third energy field that's different than men. And we have a pain body in the heart field that's on the human consciousness grid. And men do not. And that pain body will be healed in these 5 great global healing parties. Now, how that works is if you go to the event, you get the healing alive in your higher self, and you contribute it like we do in these great global healing parties to the collective when we do it. But if you go to an event, you get it within your personal higher self. And so the pain body of women will be cleared. We're going to be scrubbing women's low self-esteem, and we're going to be making some profound setups. So if you go to the event, you get it immediately, and you get the gifts that are brought in for your use immediately. For going into the grid, she says it takes anywhere from 5 lifetimes to 5 generations to 500 years. But in 500 years, everyone will be having that within their spiritual anatomy, their being, their consciousness, because the human consciousness grid will have percolated and brought it all the way through. Another interesting thing, and then we'll get going on the party, is that the Heart Math Institute has been doing lots of studies on the effect of our consciousness out in this collective consciousness that we mentioned around the planet. It's referred to as the noosphere, a name given by Teilhard de Chardin long ago. I can't remember when he lived. And he had gotten some wisdom and understanding of that. And he's brought that idea up that we have a collective consciousness that we all share in, and that it's around the periphery of the planet. And so this consciousness, I'm losing my train of thought because I went off on Teilhard de Chardin, because there's very cool writings and things you can read on the web about him. So the Heart Math Fellow, thank you, had said that they're finding out that it takes a very small group to affect the grid in a positive way. So Aliania has said the larger the group, the more profound and deep into the grid and the earth spiritual anatomy the consciousness goes and the shift happens. She said if you get 5,000 people doing this kind of work, she said the work becomes divine. She says immediately it's scrubbed off the grid and it's gone. For smaller groups like 125 up to 200, you still get into some pretty good layers and make it a change. So she asked, would I do this on the web? And I was like, okay. But when you start to see the amount of people, hopefully, that are partaking in the healing, and it starts getting up to those 200s, because we're quantum, it's still contributing to this event we're doing right now. So our intention, the quantumness of our being, and our will to do good for the greater good of all is very profound and very powerful, and also getting more and more of a group kind of a link in. We see she's saying it's getting at the healing level, and I believe it's going to even go into our family levels and lifetimes where we'll wake up and we'll remember more of the previous lifetime and what we were doing, and we'll start right in with those missions and projects that we had that we were working on. Okay, that was a lot, kind of heady, but I'm going to get out of the way now and prepare for Aliania. She'll come in and she will speak what she wants to say. The healing is done in sound. The beautiful melodic sounds are our soul's forces working into the higher self spiritual anatomy and preparing those soul forces to do the healing. And then the little brr, brr, brr sounds are what's called the soul forces engine. That is a very interesting anatomy. It's out in the greater field, and this healing can only happen with divine intelligence giving the okay. So that's pretty profound. And so we all have these little soul forces engines, and we're used as planetary engines of change. So how do you like that? You are a planetary engine of change when you contribute to this kind of work. It's kind of an exciting thing, I think, because we look out at the world and we go, boy, it's looking dicey lately. And I'd love to contribute in a benevolent way to a beautiful change. Well, this is one way of doing it. So when we clear that grid, it allows new inventions, new solutions, new consciousness, and a greater heart to come forward. And the women's sacred task at the Great Global Healing Parties is to heal the heart field of the human consciousness grid, because only women can do that because of the third spiritual anatomy that they have that goes out to various direct places, which I'll talk about in that healing. Because for men that come to this Great Global Healing Party, I don't want to feel left out. But you'll learn a lot about your female spiritual anatomy, about how it's so profoundly connected, and you'll get a new resplendent and exaltation of being a woman, because I think we're ready for that. Okay, so I'm going to get out of the way, and let's do a quick little meditation, though, before we start. You are welcome to close your eyes. You can add any intention into this that you feel called to do. I can't do chats and comments because I'm kind of busy. But within your own being, you can add any words you want. You can put in any requests for healing for people or yourself. Go for it. Why not? We're creating a profound sacred space. And the power of us coming together creates a beautiful gold that's used in the future. And the healing force that comes in for this healing was created by groups in the past history who did benevolent work and put it up at the group level. And that's the gold we use now for these healings. So it's like a pay it forward system. It's a very cool thing. It's a very benevolent design. Okay, here we go. So if you would, and you want to close your eyes, and it's always a nice thing to slowly drift into the center of your head. The center of your head is the place of neutrality and certainty. and it's up above the lower 3 chakras and above the heart. And it's a nice place to work when you're working with your spiritual nature. I better speak loudly and make sure my volume is up. It is. Okay. And just imagine you have a screen and you're on that screen, but intend that you're grounded into the earth, that you have a nice grounding cord that's maybe uncurling and going down deep into the earth. And you give Mother Earth a little hello. And that energy comes up into the soles of your feet. Sometimes your feet can start tingling. You'll feel a pulsing in the soul chakras of your feet. And it has pathways it goes up into. You can learn about the grounding, aligning, creating a sacred space, running your energy, and healing with light, sound, and color in the course on the Wonder of Human Design called Active Meditation. And this is a little bit of some of these tools here. And then let's imagine from just inside our head all the way up is a beautiful golden cord going all the way outside of Earth, out into the cosmic starry space. And we just give a little hello to that cosmic energy. Some people call it the Heavenly Fathers, an ancient term for it. And we give an intention for that, and that can come in and sort of start pulsing. And then we get in our heart field. You primarily sense with your heart. It is your strongest sensing, feeling nature. You subliminally or consciously perceive with your heart first before you do with your mind. And let us intend a couple of things. I always like to say and ask the ancestors of the land we are on and the ancestors of our blood, our family ancestral line, to come and join us in this healing and to give permission that we do these healings for the greater good of all. And I always like to invite the divas and the elementals who work for the greater good of all with divine intelligence in. And I like to invite the Christ energy in, the divine feminine Christ energy. And I like to ask the Supreme Being, the creator of all, for the blessings to do this healing, that we may do it aligned with divine intelligence for the greater good of all in grace. And feel free to add anything you wish, short and sweet. And I'm just going to get out of the way and we'll let this come forward. Oh, good day to you, dearest beings of light. My name is Alienia of Cosmic Service. I am indeed a Pleiadian mother of sound. Peace be with you, and peace be with you. We are the ones who laid the human consciousness and the other grids this one talked about. This one is Dr. Wendy that we work through and with all of you. And we indeed come back now to help clean those grids, create profound setups for now and for your evolutionary future, and to give words of hope and encouragement and a little bit of understanding and some information about your spiritual anatomy and how magnificent you are, and also to let you know that you are dearly loved and that you are indeed divine. That soul that comes into the planet that she mentioned in that very beautiful picture and hooks into that type of a Christ grid energy. These are words to describe concepts, and they create a picture for you to help you align to an idea. And it's not to say there really is a grid or a this or that. They're energetic layers is one way to think of it. And so you come in, and when you come in, you're practically perfect. I mean, you traveled here and you came here, and it's a privilege to come to this planet of free will. And from our perspective, on the other side of the veil, the angelic kingdoms, the helpers. Oh, she forgot to invite the angelics in too, but they kind of go along with the Christ healing energy. And so we want you to know, from our perspective, we are absolutely blown away at the universal call out in that greater field where we read soul group energy of all of you to see what you all are sort of creating and thinking and feeling and your alignment to creative source. And there are so many, so many that are getting on the idea of prayer and healing and coming together as groups and intending beautiful things, that things are going much faster than we expected. And you are evolving ahead. Let's say it took us approximately 25 million years to evolve. It's only taken you 250,000 years to evolve to the point you've gotten to. That took us 200 or whatever I said, millions of years. This one gets a little nervous with numbers and names, so we don't always repeat. So we want to say you're doing really, really amazing, and pat yourselves on the back and realize that all those intentions create in the now new things through the divine intelligence of the creative source. That there is a system to this planet. There is a system of creating. There is a system of evolution. There is a system of having your incarnation and coming in and breathing into a body and then leaving again and going back to soul and being in a higher self while you're on the earth. You can think of the higher self like you're here and you've got your higher self as a go-between that records all your earthly incarnations. And then your soul, which is magnificent and huge and has massive experiences way beyond this planet. And you are amazing, amazing, amazing. But in your finite world and in your body and in your minds and your feelings and the difficulties in life, you don't always feel that. So the shift change time or the great shift or the end of the Mayan calendar and all the Kali Yuga and all the many signs and symbols and the astrology with the planets all aligned in 2012 and all the various markers that made everyone go, there's something special and different going on, is a time of great change. And this one says it's like you have an old bubble and you have a new bubble and you're in the middle between these two bubbles, and that's a difficult shift change time. And there's a lot of tearing down and a lot of bringing in and building the new, but one's not completely gone and the other's not completely here, and it can be confusing. So as your biblical stories and all the sacred texts of all the great religious leaders who brought in thoughts that eventually developed religions or belief systems, in the original teachings of all of those things, they always say that a great being came and shared information with them. And those are the times in history where the creative source says they need help, and high level messengers come to give hope to humanity. So that's one way you can think of us being here now. We may not be saying we're an angel or an archangel, because they're way up in that noosphere level, out in the collective unconscious, doing lots of work up there. You do have contact with them again down the road in your evolution, but right now, a lot of their work is way up there, and they use higher creational beings like us as go-betweens. And so we step down energies, we step down healing forces, and we are not the creator, but we assist the creator's plan, if we can say it that way, because there is a sort of a blueprint for evolution of a planet like the one you're on. Okay, so this is much like she described, and we're going to describe it a little differently. First, there's a healing of your higher self and your spirit body. And there'll be the melodic sounds and the brr, brr, brr. Then we make a pause so that you know, oh, now we're going to heal the heart field. And the heart field's the next level of the healing. And there'll be the melodic sounds and the brr, brr, brr. And then there'll be a pause. And then you're going to go, now they're healing the woman's third energy field, the special energy that women have in those three places she mentioned. Because with the first healing of the human consciousness grid, all three spirit bodies of women are engaged. The one in the human consciousness grid, we're going to use these words because they're easy. The one in the interim Christ or interim soul creational grid, and the group one out in the greater field. Because even though it's a group one with everyone, there's a section of it that the women work. Because women indeed have a profound connection to divine intelligence of the Creator because of this third energy field. And they are the ones who heal the heart field of the human consciousness grid. So the third healing will be that happening. And then there's a fourth healing now that began, I believe we started it in August with the Lionsgate portal upgrade. You all can now heal the level of harmonics. And harmonics are kind of like more between the higher self and the soul. And they are very high, profound levels of healing. And they kind of relate more to what some people call the soul chakras, of which there are 5. And you can find information on the web about these things. Because we have some healers because we have some healers here that go to these things, because we have some light workers who just love the juicy energy and reading about these things. They just love spirit and the Creator. And because we have newbies who don't know anything about this, we tend to maybe repeat. We tend to maybe say things again or re-explain things the best we can. So if you've heard this before, just bear with us. Okay, so we have 4 different healings. And then at the end, I'm going to come back and share some new information. And we're going to ask this one as a channel to get out of the way, because she gets excited, and don't think, because if she thinks, it affects the channeling. So we just are going to remind her, just hang back. You can re-listen to it later, because the more unthinking, unfeeling, and detached and just observing the channeler can be, and this one did not want to be a channeler, but she just said, okay, if it's part of the package, I'll do it, because it's beautiful information. And so the more clear the information can come through, unbiased by any of the human layers of the channeler. Okay, so here we go. She likes to turn sideways when we all do our soul group engine healing level, because her head has to go back, and that way you don't have to stare up her nostrils. So she thinks it's a little better view. Okay, here we go. You are welcome to close your eyes and get into your sacred space and be in joy, because healing has to happen in joy. And she will share with you the theme at the end of what we healed, because that way you won't go down into the complex thinking about it. We want our energy to be uplifted, joyful. This one thinks of gospel music where they're just singing to the Creator in joy, or something of that nature. And when you must be neutral, meaning I'm not polarized, I don't know if I believe this, you just be neutral. And you must be certain of your spiritual abilities to do that. That was something a teacher taught this one, and that's the most succinct way to say it. Joyful, neutral, and certain. So if you're at an event like this, I'm sure you have all those 3 things going for you, or this wouldn't appeal to you. Thank you for coming. Okay, here we go. All right, dearest beings of light, you are welcome to open your eyes or not. And here comes some new information. In the paradigm that this one has described with the human consciousness grid, we'd like to explain a little bit more about how clearing the human consciousness grid brings in new setups, new inventions, new consciousness, new healing abilities, new healing paradigms, and new ways of doing things in groups and individually. If you have an old consciousness, it's in the way. If you take away that old consciousness, as this one said, the soul brings in new forces, new abilities. At your higher self soul group level, out on the human consciousness grid, you have a connection there that's been made that's new, that was made last year and into part of this year. In that greater field that she talked about, where the supreme being's benevolence is and the divine intelligence, and we call it the supreme being engine of change, and the soul groups first all come and hook into the planetary system because you are part of Mother Earth. Why you are here. You are sort of enmeshed within her, if we may say it that way. It's why you ground to the earth and keep yourself aligned vertically and get that energy running. And it just keeps you in the now, and it keeps you in your alignment to your higher self and soul. And so that greater field where the benevolence of the creator is had a connection made directly from that field into the human consciousness grid and directly from the interim Christ grid or the interim soul creational grid, same thing. Think of it as the creational level of your souls, the Christ grid being the mastery level of your souls, the interim grid being the creational level of your souls, where you get to change a lot and grow and do things. And the human consciousness grid is being the reflection of that. Because the human consciousness grid is more like a recording of what went on, which is why you heal that recording. So now there's a direct connection from that interim Christ grid right into the human consciousness grid, that interim soul creational grid. So you have two new profound connections that were never there before, from the direct divine intelligence level out in the farthest periphery of the planet into the human consciousness grid, and into the soul creational level into the human consciousness grid. So now you've got a bunch of new things that are coming forward in abilities and gifts. The first one we'd like to talk about is why you scrub the old grid of the old consciousness. Because what you are actually healing is from the past. It's not the consciousness that's going on now. The consciousness going on now is a reflection of the past. And so you scrub that away, and it allows those new soul things to come in. And one of the things that can come in is, believe it or not, our wisdom and records. One of the things that we did, and you will do at the end of your planetary enlightenment process, millions of years ahead, or not, the way you're going so fast, you will take your grid, wrap it up with all the wisdom and the golden energy and the inventions and the solutions and all the things you came up with in your creational planetary system. And you take that and you put it on another planet. And you do sort of what we did. And you create various grids in the system. And it's kind of like a large galactic pay it forward kind of a picture like that. And when it said about the gold energy you use in healing comes from groups in the past that created that gold. So when we went on our journey to come to this planet, which we knew where we were going, we knew of this planet, and it was set off to the side, sort of away from other interfering forces because it was going to have free will. And that was sort of a new thing. What would the people or the consciousness or the soul groups on that planetary system choose? Alignment for the greater good, alignment with the creative source, or not? And we're not saying we're the creative source. We are not. And so So we wrapped up all of our solutions, our inventions, our wisdom, and various processes and put them in the interim creational grid connected out to the greater field. Not to be too techy and make your mind go, but it's the best way we can describe these things for understanding. So because of those new connections from that soul creational grid into the human consciousness grid and the one from the greater grid, the greater field of the benevolence of the creator and all those things into the human consciousness grids, means there's like a circular energy there now, if you think about it, between the creational grid, the greater field, where Supreme Being's engine of change and divine intelligence sort of sparks what should come forward based on human consciousness and what you're ready for. And from that into the human consciousness grid, it's like you have this little circular wheel there now. And so as you clear the grids, it kind of starts moving this wheel to allow these inventions that we had come up with to help you. Because as is well known from people researching, ideas often come through various people at the same time. The example of the airplane. Several people sort of got the idea and worked on it at the same time. And that's the way the divine intelligence works through soul groups. It's like who has the antenna up is ready and sort of has the skill set and whatever, and several people will bring it in. Or one kind of gets it all the way and figures it out and brings it in. So it allows for new solutions. And then you all take that information, how it percolates through your souls, and make it the way it works for you. So let's say there's a large overarching blueprint, is a word a lot of people use to describe the divine blueprint. That periphery of the planet, greater field, has many, many ways of being described. It's almost like you have that blueprint, but maybe you want the kitchen to look this way, or you want a closet over there. That's an example, of using the blueprint analogy. So that's one of the things that happens when you clear the consciousness grid. You're ready for a new consciousness, new inventions, new solutions to the problems you're having. Another thing that happens with the setups that have been going on, besides the one she mentioned of the divine feminine, which men and women are both getting. Women just are getting an extra bump up because of their third energy field that's pretty much all divine feminine. And another thing that this one doesn't know is that there have been setups put in place from, okay, we're getting very far out here. Can you imagine that all the enlightened planets have a little bit of we're going to call it a highway system. We're going to call it the galactic highway, that they all have a connection to each other. And can you imagine that they just got an upgrade of that system? And it used to be that some divine intelligence, new kind of a creational energy and understanding will come through, and it had to be passed down one to the other, one to the other, one to the other. And it took a long time. But now what's percolated in is it's like a superconducting highway. Everyone's going to get the information at the same time when it comes into this galaxy, because it comes from, we don't really know, somewhere over there. But everyone that becomes enlightened and gets that sort of feeling of the divinity of the creator and that connection, like 98% of your people on earth have, or believing in something greater than themselves, some sort of source, they are all getting it, and it's percolating into your planetary system. So there have been upgrades to divine intelligence through your galactic family of enlightened planets to you. And that's profound. And that, a lot of that is setups for the future. But there is some that's going to come online in your lifetime, in this one's work and a couple other people's work, because there are other people doing this kind of work. And this is just happens to be the segment this one's bringing forward, this one being this one. And so that's another amazing thing that's happening that's very unique to this planet. This planet's very special. Other channelers have brought that information in. Other channelers have talked about the enlightened planet family, and there's many advanced beings and angelics here to help humanity through this great shift, and it's true. You have a big cheering squad. They can't interfere because of the divine will, and they don't do that in any planetary system, but they are here cheering you on and sending benevolent energy and healing energy through that galactic highway, if you can imagine that. Pretty profound. So there comes a point where you evolve your consciousness enough that you join that galactic family and they make themselves known to you, as they have in various periods of time through your past history. Because there's always somebody percolating in something profoundly spiritual that somebody came and told them that was not a human body. Okay, we're getting kind of far out. Okay, so that's another thing we wanted you to realize, that this planet is so very special, and there's very special things happening here that did not happen in our planet at all. So it's very, very cool from our perspective to see happening. Another thing that scrubbing your grids does is it enables a type of now she mentioned the quantum merge and the ability to almost have like a hive mind of healing when other groups, and she's starting to see it on the web. Other people are starting to not just have the intent to to put waves of peace into Mother Earth and waves of joy into Mother Earth, or to ask for the healing from the Creator for the ending of wars. But people are starting to go, well, wait a minute, let's just get together and intend that we scrub that away. And that's sort of creating, there's kind of like a hive healing mind that's happening at the human consciousness grid level, that groups are just going to start to hook into that same kind of energy, and it'll add to the healing. It doesn't matter if you completely know what you're healing. It's nice to know, but sometimes just the intelligence to surrender to divine intelligence as a soul group and say, well, we don't know exactly what's needed, but we want to give this healing force to healing the consciousness of humanity on the earth. It's that simple. It's working with your spiritual nature is intention, certainty, neutrality, and joy. Okay, so that's another profound thing. Another thing that's going on when you heal the human consciousness grid is that it enables new healing paradigms to come in. Now, we don't mean to be a salesman, but this one has 3 that have come in, and she's got a 4th one coming she doesn't know about. But heart field healing for men and women is a little more visceral, a little more good for people on table work or someone sitting in a chair. But the women's resonance healing, and she didn't mention the women's heart field unity healing. Well, there's a unity field in your energetic anatomy of the higher self. And a lot of people talk about that now. And the women have a particular aspect of it in the divine feminine, and particularly in the new divine feminine energy. And we're going to redo a tape on the women's resonance healing course because there's an upgrade that came in with the divine feminine for that. And then we're just starting the women's unity field, heart field healing, women's unity healing. And it's another resonance healing for women. And those are simple, beautiful, intention, elegant paradigms. You just ask the creative source, the greater good of all, and you give a series of particular intentions. And one, you have to disengage it. The other, you just don't. And as she said, 6 out of 10 times the healing will take place. Because in the Great Shift, there's a lot of healing that goes on, as you are starting to understand why. And many of you might know this from because you go on the web and you read lots of sources of beautiful, juicy channeled information. And if this one's work and channeling doesn't resonate for you, well, then keep searching and find one that does. And everyone's not for everyone. That's why there's a lot of flavors on the web of different people bringing forward work. Okay, so another thing that healing the human consciousness does is it enables within those who partake greater peace and joy. It enables greater connection to soul and higher self, and it enables an expansion of your heart field, believe it or not. We're going to say some new things about the heart field. It is your primary sensing. We're going to call it an apparatus, for lack of a better word. An apparatus is maybe a bunch of parts that come together that have a greater whole purpose. So there's many parts to your heart field anatomy, and This one's early YouTube channelings were very flavored by the fact that she was exploring the human energy field out in the outer torus and in some of the interdimensional DNA, if you've heard of those words. And so it's very techy, not for everyone. But the stuff coming in now is a little more practical for everyone. And that's an example of how a channeler can influence the channels. But she needed this information for her work. So there you go. So, back to what we were saying, the healing paradigms we mentioned are coming in, and there are gonna be other people who are gonna bring in new healing paradigms, because the healing paradigms now are very simple and elegant. They don't require a lot of bells and whistles and learning, because they're meant to go to more people. People that maybe are, somebody that works in an office, but feels the need to wanna help, or feels the need that there's friction between some of the people, or she and some of the people, and wants to do something about it. And whenever there's friction between 2 people, there's always both people have the same disharmony, and they're just resonating that back and forth to each other. Occasionally, someone's just doesn't have the same resonant match as someone in healing, and that's rare. So if you have a problem with someone, it's pretty good to just say, "That's just a reflection of something I got. It might be in the subconscious level and I don't know it, but maybe a healing would be a good thing for all of us." So those 2 women's healing paradigms are for, everyday people who want to just engage in some energy healing and see what it's like, and do that. Okay, so, and as we said, keep your eyes out. There's some other healing paradigms that are coming forward. Another thing that happens when you heal the human consciousness grid is there is an upgrade in the consciousness of everyone. And by healing the human consciousness grid, others have said this, it allows for you to move through the great shift in grace faster, believe it or not. By healing this human consciousness grid, just in this one's dedicated in her lifetime, because we showed it to her when she was in her 20s, that this grid had to be healed, took her way up, showed it to her, showed her the red pain body of the earth. You have that in your spiritual anatomy. She learned in a healing school. And now we know that the women have a heart field pain body on the human consciousness grid to give them the compassion to want to do better for humanity. It's just part of women's makeup. And so that healing paradigm, what we're talking about, she started to think, let's get out of the way. So that ability to bring in new information, new healing, new paradigms of healing. Give us a second. Sorry about that, because new information she just loves, and because she's a naturopathic doctor and she's in all that levels of stuff. So we'll just give her a minute. Okay, there we go. And so we were saying about the healing paradigms easy for women and the ability to, move through the great shift faster. Yes. And speedier. And just in the work this one is gonna do with groups of people and all that, you can easily shave off. So in other words, in your lifetime, if you're most of the people that come to these are maybe middle age or older, you do in your lifetime, if you're most of the people that come to these are maybe middle age or older, you do get young ones. We're so happy to have you here because your consciousness is indigo and online and you're feeling it. And that's a beautiful thing to be in a young person, to have that spiritual draw. And so you can shave off 1,000 years of going through the great shift. 1,000 years. Just for a couple evenings a night, 4 times a year, 5 or 6 times a year in the great global healing parties, or other people's events that they're doing if you find that work appealing. And there's gonna be some other healing events. This one partook with Juicy Fellow doing pineal tones. They just did the last choir in Maui a week ago. And that work's gonna start to come online because it's time for it all to come forward. And she was the first one to do the weird sound work online. But now she realizes, okay, I pioneered. It's not so bad now knowing others are gonna do that. And so there's the ability to shave off a lot of stuff. So the final thing we wish you to know about why these healing parties are so profound is that in your soul, in a new connection that will come online in 27 to 28, there is a heart field resonance that will start to be felt in group events. It'll get to be where people are really going to feel their heart field grow, expand, become lighter in group events because of some new connections. Not only in the divine feminine, not only in that little circle between the grids that we mentioned, but also because of the new divine intelligence upgrades that are happening that are going to be laid deeper into the human consciousness grid and in the higher self level over the next year and a half. So there's beautiful and profound things going on, and hope and promise and healing and evolution. And we're just so pleased and so happy that you are partaking in this work, if it appeals to you. This is what we wished you to know this day, and that you are dearly loved, to expect benevolence in all you do, and we bid you adieu. Peace be with you. All right, I'm back. It's Dr. Wendy Rowley. In high soul channeling, there's a little channel where I am and a little channel where she can come down, and then she goes and I'm in both channels. And so I come in and go out very quickly. I want to tell you what we healed today. In the September equinox healing, we healed on the human consciousness grid the idea of the concept of the angel devil polarity. This one's good, that one's bad, that one's good, this one's bad, that one's holier, whatever that means in your consciousness or however that picture appeals to you. But basically, that is a form of polarity. In this great global healing party, we healed it between men and women. Isn't that exciting? We healed the angel devil complex. That's how Aliania described it in her words. Healed it between men and women. Isn't that exciting? We healed the angel devil complex. That's how Aliania described it in her words. And we did it between men and women. And so that's a beautiful thing, because that's a beautiful thing. That's all I can say about that. Okay, please feel free to like, subscribe, comment. You can go to the Wonder of Human Design website. There's lots of forms and contact abilities through there to get in touch if you have any questions. The next great global healing party is March. And then I'll be working on getting the women's great global on location healing party together. It's in Mount Shasta, California, maybe McLeod. I got to check the weather out and see all that. But I have booked a venue in McLeod, but I'm not sure if it's going over those mountains is a little tough for people that time of year, but we'll see. I'll figure it out. And that's California, and that's going to be just early December. I think it's 4th, 5th, and 6th, 2025. So I'm hoping to see a lot of you there. And these live things, ooh, you leave feeling different and you know it. I did those pineal tone choirs for all of them for over a 12-year period, and ooh, they changed a lot. And they upgraded many of the soul's faculties, like the ability to see mental image pictures more in meditation and la 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 la. Anyway, little things unfold as you go through these things. And how these choirs are done for women, as you'll notice on the Wonder of Human Design website, there's something called the Tones of the Heart. And what I will be doing is creating a very nominally priced course for the tones of the heart. And you listen to them. They're not the complete tones, but they're enough to get you the resonance and the understanding of the tones. And so you just have to listen to them before you come to the choir so they're familiar. And then those tones are, you divide the group. One group sings one set of tones, one group sings another of these women's tones of the heart, or they're actually called the tones of healing in ancient Lemuria. Mm-hmm. And it creates a third alchemy, a quantum field where the magic happens and the deep healing happens and new connections and beautiful things happen. So that will be on the website, I'm assuming by March. February, March. So that just requires a small qualification that you did listen to those, or you've become familiar with you. I've got some conductors that are interested. They lead you. It's very easy. It's up on the screen. And it's toning. Toning is using your voice as an instrument for the soul and higher chakras from the heart field up. And it's not singing. Anyone can do it. And it's a lot about it on the web now. So I'm going to sign off. I hope you have a pleasant evening and a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday. I had a little Christmas tree over there, but I had my head in the way the whole time. And have a happy holiday no matter what you celebrate. And I hope to see you at the next Great Global Healing Party. Bye-bye. Dr. Wendy Rowley signing out. Just putting my website down there for a chat thing here. I'll be right. Sign off if you need to, and I'll sign off in a sec. Okay. And YouTube's got it up on the top. Links to the two. There's the Great Global Healing Party website, and there's the Wonder of Human Design website, and there's hamburger menus in the top right. You can't see the one for this Great Global Healing Party, but after today, I will switch it back over to the Women's Great Global Healing Party, and I will make sure you can see that hamburger menu with my dark picture. Thank you to all the people on Pixabay. They're amazing. Their artwork is starting to reflect all the energy stuff that's coming in. It's really interesting to see. And when I was doing it back in 2020 and getting this whole thing going, you didn't see it like that. It's really fascinating what people are percolating in with all these new energies. So you'll see all the websites are linked in the hamburger menu. There's little snippets about the different things, and it'll take you to the other site. And I try to post it all over the best I can. Well, like I said, signing off, and thank you so much for partaking and for being a part of the Great Global Healing Party. I love the idea we unite as one heart for this healing. It's just a beautiful concept. Bye-bye. I just like to say Merry Christmas.